evening, everybody. For those who aren't fully familiar with Midatech, I'll give a brief overview of the company. I'm the CEO of the company. I'm joined by Nick Robbins-Cherry, CFO of the company, who will take any complicated questions. Effectively, we're a drug delivery biotechnology company. We work at the microscale and the nanoscale. We are somewhat unique in that R&D is core to what we do, plus we do our own in-house manufacturing. So we control our own IP, our own know-how, our own costs, our own timelines. All of that is done in-house. We are dual listed on both the AIM and the NASDAQ stock exchanges. We have an R&D base in Cardiff and a manufacturing base in Bilbao in Spain. And we have approximately 50 employees. This slide really sets the scene as to what we do, i.e. we make medicines better, improving biodelivery and biodistribution of existing agents. That's what we do. How we do that is in one of three ways. We have three proprietary technologies in-house. The first is Q-Sphera, which improves biodelivery and biodistribution by sustained delivery, prolonged release of compounds over weeks to months. The second technology is Midasolve, that improves biodelivery and biodistribution by local delivery, allowing drugs to be administered directly into the tumor. And the third technology is our Midacore gold nanoparticle technology that improves biodelivery and biodistribution by targeted delivery to sites of disease after it's been injected systemically. Importantly, for each of these platforms, they have undergone successful translation or transition into the clinic, number one. Number two, they each have ongoing clinical programs. And number three, they have multiple opportunities beyond their current programs because these are platform technologies. So we have programs that we currently work on, but obviously as a platform technology, we can use these platforms for several programs and opportunities. 2018 has been a year of enormous change for Midatech. Most importantly, we've refocused and devised a strategy focused purely on R&D. So we're an out-and-out pure-play biotech, number one. Number two, we've streamlined the business. We had a US commercial arm that we divested last year. So that streamlined the business and allows us to focus on R&D exclusively without any distraction. Both of those have really resulted in solid clinical progress. The focus on R&D, meaning that we've got two of our key programs into the clinic, MTD-201 and MTX-110, which I'll go into a little bit more detail. And as I mentioned earlier on, all the technologies are validated by virtue of the fact that they're into the clinic. We've developed strong partnerships, specifically with a company called CMS, which is a Hong Kong-listed company, large Chinese pharmaceutical company that has licensed all of our technologies, all our platforms, all our programs, which is a real validation for the technologies and the work that we're doing. And they have that license for Greater China and Southeast Asia. They also are now the majority shareholder in the company, and they injected $8 million at the last fundraise. And finally, we've secured the runway sufficient to take us through all the clinical milestones that we plan through into 2020. Right now, the runway is 12 months or longer. Some financial highlights for the past year. Number one, revenues increased 96%, primarily driven by collaborations that we're working on as well as grant income. Number two, R&D expenditure has increased by 12% roughly. This reflects us going into the clinic with the two technologies and programs that I mentioned earlier. Admin and cost control has been very prudent. In fact, we've kept it at parity, and if we take out depreciation, amortization, and accounting mechanisms like that, we probably have reduced admin costs. And the all-important figure at the end of last year, we ended with 2.34 million in cash, which subsequently we've added to with a successful fundraise of 12.7 million after expenses at the beginning of this year. Plus, we've had a grant approved by the local government, the Bilbao local government, which is where we had our manufacturing facility, to the tune of 1.5 million. Plus, we've had a 6.6 million facility, soft loan facility, approved by the Spanish government, again for commercial scale up. So from that perspective, a very solid start to the year. Let me talk about QSphere. This is the first of our technologies, and as I mentioned, this is specifically tailored to purpose medications for long-term and extended release over weeks to months. There's a big difference or stark contrast between how we do microsphere sustained release technologies versus how the rest of the world have done it for the last 20 or 30 years and are still doing it using emulsion-based processes. And this photo on the left-hand side is that emulsion-based process. We can see big reactors, drums, 10-story buildings, very toxic solvents that are required, high energy mixing, very inefficient, very expensive. From our perspective, we used advanced printing. We've taken some printing techniques, developed them over the past 7 to 8 years, and that's what we did. That's what we used. We print from a printhead like this, bespoke printhead made for us, and that's the entire infrastructure that we need. We can fit the entire production in 4 rooms, actually in the size of this, so 4 individual rooms in the size of this, start to finish. So this is, from a technology perspective, this is mind-blowing stuff that is happening. And if we look at it and we see it in action, this is a video. So imagine that this is printing, the printhead is there. Like any printhead, you're normally going to print onto a flat piece of paper. Here we're printing into a stream of fluid. These little, each of these little dots is a microsphere. This prints 4 million of these per second. And in this microsphere is some polymer and some drug. That hits this fluid over here, and then we can see it bounces along. This removes any unwanted chemicals that have been used in the formulation, and what we have coming out of that side is the drug that is then ready for use. And this is what we've used in the clinical trial. This is going into the pivotal program. This will be the commercial supply as well. So, simple technology, taken us 8 years to develop, very advanced, fully protected by IP. The first indication that we focused on with the QSphere technology is MTD-201 in neuroendocrine tumors and acromegaly. This is a massive market, 2 billion, in fact it's probably 2.5 billion now, dominated by 2 players, Novartis and Ipsen. Novartis have had this product for 20 or 30 years, they've dominated the market, and it's still their 5th or 6th largest selling product. No one has managed to compete with them on an octreotide, with an octreotide equivalent. And octreotide is the mainstay of medical treatment for both carcinoid and acromegaly, or for both neuroendocrine tumors and acromegaly. And we are developing MTD-201 as an alternative to sandostatin LAR. Using our QSphere technologies to make medicines better, this generates a number of competitive advantages. The formulation technology that we use converts into demonstrable clinical benefits that I will take you through later in the presentation for all of these reasons, and we'll touch on those. The manufacturing technology converts into sustainable and efficient manufacturing for all of these reasons. The competitive advantage is clear based on proven clinical benefits. I'll take you through that in the next slide. as well as a whole host of other developments that are going to go into this product, and I'll touch on them as well. And importantly, all of this is protected by IP out into the 2030s. So very solid IP, the earliest expiry date is in the early 30s. We started at phase 1 last year, May, completed it in September. The intention is not to go into detail on these graphs. In fact, they're too small, but the important thing is that this slide captures how advanced Q-Sphera and MTD-201 can be when it gets to market. The top part of this slide is looking at the clinical profile of the data that we generated in the phase 1, and the bottom half is looking at usability from a patient or healthcare practitioner perspective. This over here is looking at pharmacodynamics. What is pharmacodynamics? That's the effect that the drug has on the body. Now, growth hormone is the problem in these diseases. So it's elevated through a pituitary tumor or whatever source. But the growth hormone is elevated. This graph over here is looking at MTD-201. This graph over here is looking at sandostatin LAR, which is the Novartis drug. The top plot over there, sorry, this one here. The top plot over there is baseline for MTD-201. The top plot for sandostatin LAR at baseline as well. The bottom plot is after therapy. And we can see here that both MTD-201 and sandostatin LAR normalize growth hormone, which is what we wanted. We wanted to get the growth hormone back to normal. We do that. The second plot over here is looking at pharmacokinetics. Now, pharmacokinetics is the actual levels of octreotide in the blood. So this is looking at the effect of octreotide. This is looking at the actual levels of octreotide in the blood. This is Midatech's product, MTD-201. This is sandostatin LAR, Novartis. What is very clear is from administration, the Midatech product is linear, consistent, very tightly grouped, predictable, no surprises. We have a look at sandostatin, and it's all over the show from when it gets administered. As soon as it is administered, there's a massive dose dumping in the first 24 hours. That settles down, and then everything just goes haywire. So some of these patients are getting supernormal levels, others are not even getting treatment. And that reflects the underlying technology, which is what I was talking about earlier on. So that's a clinical profile. Then we have the usability, needle size. Novartis uses a 19 gauge needle to inject into the muscle. Now, you can't really see this, but trust me, this stings. So,
and the first couple of rows, you have to.
So this hurts, okay? Even with this big bore needle, it gets blocked 30% of the time. And this is expensive medication. It's £1,000 a pop or $5,000 a pop. And that's not a conversion, that's just the different prices. So they have to go even bigger than this, which is that one. And what happens is, because it's such a viscous fluid, the practitioners need to lean into it, and you're getting it in the buttock. So it's very painful. And we see that in the data. In this study, 80% of the Novartis patients complained of pain, tenderness at the injection site. For Midatech, we use a far more pleasant 21 gauge. And we know that we can get down to 27 gauge, which is that, and we use that for eye injections. And we can see that in the data as well. Only 8% of patients thought that the Midatech product was painful at injection. The second key part of usability is reconstitution. So from when you take the sandostatin LAR drug out of the fridge, you take it to the patient bedside, it gets mixed or reconstituted at the patient's bedside. It's a 26-27 step process. That's according to their label. takes 40 minutes, and when it's reconstituted or mixed, they've got to administer it immediately. Otherwise it congeals, and they've got to waste it. From a Midatech perspective, it takes us maximum 10 minutes, in fact on average 6 to 7 minutes. It's a 6-stage process, and when the process is done, we have 2 hours stability. So there's no urgency for the nurse or the healthcare practitioner to have to give the injection. If the patient needs to do something, the nurse needs to do something, no problem. There's no urgency, everything is far more relaxed and rushed. And importantly, there's less errors and less wastage to the tune of 30%, because there is 30% wastage of the Novartis product at the bedside. That adds up. As if that's not enough, those advantages, there's a whole host of other advantages that MTD-201 is going to have, none of which are possible with Sandostatin LAR. First of all, a longer dosing interval of 6 to 8 weeks as opposed to 4. Very important for patients. They have to come in for these injections every 4 weeks. It's expensive, whereas an 8-weekly injection or even a 6-weekly injection, far more easier from a convenience and practicality perspective. Doses in a vial, in a single vial, Novartis cannot put in more than 30 milligrams because of the technology. So if a patient needs more than 30 milligrams, they're going to need 2 injections, maybe even 3 injections. Expensive and stings. From our perspective, we can go up to 60 milligrams in the same vial, and potentially more. So if a patient needs more, we just give them all the same in the same injection. No issues with cost, pain, experience, convenience, the whole package. And the final factor is the subcutaneous dosing. So right now, these injections are injected intramuscularly, so it's a deep intramuscular injection. MTD-201 will be the final product, is planned to be a subcutaneous product, so just injected into the skin. That's far more convenient for patients, and it also allows them to self-administer at home, and potentially for us to develop an auto-inject over time. The next steps for MTD-201 is we have an initial study starting H2 this year, comparing the subcutaneous formulation to the intramuscular formulation of MTD-201. Following that study, we have a pivotal study in commencing H1 2020 with the plan to submit an NDA for marketing authorization in 2021. The second of our technologies is Midasolve. What this does is it takes insoluble drugs and solubilizes them into a liquid form. So it can be administered in liquid form directly into the tumor or some other route of administration. Now if you think of any drug, paracetamol you can take orally as a tablet. If you need to, you can take it in liquid form, and if needs be, it can also be injected in liquid form. For many chemotherapeutics, they can only be given orally. There's no liquid form because they're insoluble. We've taken, using the Midasolve technology, we've taken panabinostat, which is the active component of MTX-110, and the first indication we're focusing on is childhood brain cancer. DIPG, which is diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, that's the childhood brain cancer, is the cancer here at the base of the brain stem. Debilitating. It's universally fatal. These children typically live no longer than 9 months. It's a debilitating disease for these kids and for the families. They still get treated with radiotherapy. They still get treated with chemotherapy like platinum. It's disfiguring. It destroys their lives, but there's nothing else for them. So they have to take these therapies. There's no hope. It's about 1,000 patients worldwide, ultra orphan. The entire treatment ecosystem is about 5 or 6 clinics worldwide that can treat this disease. The total market size is about 0.5 billion, and the adult counterpart, which is GBM, glioblastoma multiforme, is about 3 to 5 billion. We're taking Midasolve and generating competitive advantage. First of all, panobinostat, that's the active agent. We licensed that from Novartis. It's the most potent drug through independent research as well as our own research against human DIPG cell lines. We've liquidized it, we've solubilized it into a liquid form such that there's additional routes of administration. We inject it directly into the tumor. If everything goes according to plan, we hope to establish a new treatment paradigm using this drug, and the phase 1/2 is already underway. And this is the study. It's a combined phase 1 and phase 2. Here we're just looking at safety. We started last year, May, with the expectation that we'd finish Q3 this year. We originally planned 5 dose levels to finish at Q3. The drug has been so well tolerated that we've added an additional 2 dose levels. We're now up to 90 micromolar as opposed to 30 micromolar. We're hoping that this will stabilize and finish the phase 1 part of it, the safety components of the study, first half of this year, at which stage, at dose level 7, we will go into the efficacy side of it, and the design there is 19 patients. The endpoint is overall survival after 1 year. And for this study to be positive, we need 12 patients to be alive at the end of 90 years, which is a low benchmark, low threshold, but that just reflects the unmet nature of this disease. So, next steps is you want to complete the US clinical study. We have a similar approach in the EU. Depending on data, hopefully we can accelerate approval. And similarly, we have a preclinical program ongoing in GBM. This slide summarizes all the potential catalysts and news flow that we're looking for over the next 18 to 24 months. So we want to start and finish MTD 201. We want to start and finish the manufacturing as well as the commercial scale-up for MTD 201. This is all for QSphera. For Midatech, we want to complete the phase 1 study and get into the phase 2 study and progress almost through to completion. We have an EU program ongoing with the same approach. We have lots of business development ongoing, the focus of the company this year. And then our third technology is still in early stage research, but we're supporting ongoing programs, the focus being on QSphera and Midatech. So in summary, we have a new strategy that is delivering. We have a new R&D focused team, management team that know what's needed and how to do it. We have recent strong data programs on track that is validating all of our technologies being into the clinic. These assets are valuable assets. The markets that we serve have unmet needs that are matched by the competitive advantages of our technology. We have a de-risked portfolio in that we use existing agents for which safety and efficacy has already been approved. We have multiple programs, we're not a single drug company, and we've already seen the data that's in the clinic. And finally, the platform opportunities, as I mentioned, the programs in and of themselves are valuable, but beyond those programs, there's a whole host of other opportunities.
Thank you very much, Helen. Can we now open up to the floor, please, for some questions? So just on your timeline, could you explain where the clear value catalysts are going to be for the company in terms of the outlook over the next 18 to 24 months?
Yeah. So with QSphera over here, the most important is that we're going to start the initiation of the pivotal study early next year, and we plan to have that done by the end of next year. So we plan to have generated data by the end of next year on 201. Also, as part of that, for the NDA and the marketing submission, we require commercial batch data. That is ongoing, and we hope to finish that by the end of the 18 to 24 month period. Midatech, the brain tumor program, as I said, the phase 2 efficacy start, we're hoping to get going H2 of this year. Potentially an EU study at the same time, generating both start and completion data, and then business development and licensing, lots of activities ongoing there in terms of seeking partnerships and license opportunities.
Thank you for the presentation. When do you expect to be self-funded. You just raise capital. Looks like your revenues are accelerating, but you're still spending a lot of money. So when do you expect that to finish?
Well, I think it's the nature of biotech companies and industry. We have to evaluate all options continuously. Right now we have runway through for at least 12 months. So our aim is to evaluate dilutive as well as non-dilutive funding. As I mentioned, the business development and licensing activities are active. It's an active part of it. The programs that we have are very appealing to potential partners, so if we can get a right price on good terms, then that would make us self-sufficient. But we don't want to be forced into a deal, because then we leave upside on the table. So if we can hold out for as long as possible before having to do that deal, that would be preferable. But if we get acceptable terms on the table, then it's a different story.
On your Midatech product, that's the first indication is for orphan drugs.
Yeah.
What price do you think that orphan drug will sell at? And what proportion of that will go through to you? Or would it be a licensing deal?
No, that program we aim to keep in-house, because it's a very focused sales effort. As I mentioned, 5, maybe 10 centers use the treatment or treat this disease. So it's a very focused effort. We have to keep it in-house. In terms of the pricing, difficult to say. If you talk to experts in the US, it can be a few $100,000. If you talk to experts this side of the Atlantic, maybe it's $50,000 to $100,000. So there's a spectrum that we plan to evaluate, but we haven't made a final selection of price at this point in time.
How much would the feeling do? How much can be phase 1 and phase 2? How much would the phase 3 trial cost?
So for sure one is the 505(b)(2) approach. So in fact, the next pivotal study that we plan for next year will be the pivotal at work. That's the equivalent of the phase 3. Because it's 505(b)(2, it'll be the final study if everything goes according to plan. The range of the cost is up to about 5 million. All inclusive. Yeah, all inclusive.
Sorry, but we have run over a little bit on that first presentation, but there will be an opportunity for further questions later on. Would you please put your hands together for Dr. Baker?